Hi everyone, welcome to Stardust Astrology and welcome to the general monthly forecast for December 2016. And this month I'm doing it a bit different because I think what I did last month was a bit too detailed for every sign. And I think not many people have the patience to to watch such long videos, so I'm gonna try something else this month. Plus, last month I had much more time to deal with this. Now, this month is very hectic for me, so I'll do what can fit in my schedule right now. And I've already heard some forecasts for December 2016, and I would like to address all the prognoses that talk about doom and gloom, coming with this Scorpio month and Scorpio new moon. There has been a lot of fear mongering, both on YouTube and on I don't know, other places online. That's my main source of informing myself. And I would like to talk about this from another perspective, because when we have such strong influences coming from the sign of Scorpio, the easiest thing, and let's say the most natural thing that comes to us in a lower manifestation of the Scorpio sign is fear. Scorpio is all about dealing with your emotional fears. And wherever in your personal chart the house of Scorpio falls, this is your zone of dealing with your emotional fears. If your rising sign is Scorpio or your moon is in Scorpio, it's going to have to do with yourself and your personality. If Scorpio falls in your second house, it's going to have to do with your family and your general value system. If it falls in your third house, this is going to do with your siblings, with people who are equal to you, with your personal desires and efforts that you put in your life and your communications. If Scorpio falls in your fourth house, this is going to do with your emotions, your mother, your family, and your home. If Scorpio falls in your fifth house, it's going to do with your children and your creative self-expression, which can have to do with either singing, dancing, acting, politics, astrology, even anything that you do to creatively express yourself. If Scorpio falls in your sixth house, it's going to have to do with your everyday routines, your health, your subordinates, and the job that you do, not the career as a whole and as your status in the society, but the job that you do every day and all the little routines that you perform every day. And it can even do with your pets. If Scorpio falls in your seventh house, this is going to have to do with other people in your life and relationship that you have with them. It can be your private relationships, like your spouse. It can be your very close friends, your business partners, your clients, even the masses, if you have to deal with masses. If the Scorpio falls into your eighth house, it's going to have to do with your subconscious mind and your psychological screw ups. It can also have to do with research, problem solving, any kind of occult things that you are dealing with, and any kind of shared resources with any type of partners that you may have. If Scorpio falls in your ninth house, it can have to do with your belief systems, with your gurus, teachers, people who lead you through your life. foreigners that you come in contact with, your professors, your higher studies, and your long distance traveling. If Scorpio falls in your 10th house, it's going to have to do with your status in the society, your career, prestige, titles, your highest karmas that you perform to affect as much people possible, as much people as possible in this world, and the authorities in your life, like your bosses, for example. If this falls in your 11th house, it's going to have to do with your hopes, dreams, and wishes, the circle of people that you hang around with, and your income in the form of, let's say, side gains, not something that is not as regular as your salary. And if Scorpio falls in your 12th house, it's going to have to do with the collective subconscious mind and the parts of it that are projected on you. With your deepest forms of spirituality need to retreat. And in some cases, your addictions, if you have any, diseases that can hospitalize you, jails, prisons, anything that will put you away from the routines that happen every day in the 6th house. This is the if in the 6th house we perform some things that we need to perform every day in order to maintain the things that we have in our lives, then the 12th house is the opposite of that. The 12th house is whatever isolates us from those everyday routines. Now, Sun has been traveling through Scorpio since the 16th of November, and wherever Sun goes, this is where our collective focus goes. And when the Sun is in Scorpio, everybody becomes an investigator in some area of their life, and in some area of their life, things become illuminated related to the Scorpio issues. And Scorpio issues are our deep emotional issues, which inevitably go through some kind of transformation in our lives. Wherever Scorpio is in your chart, you will keep going through transformations related to that house in your life. The same thing applies to the 8th house in your chart, regardless of the sign that sits in your 8th house and any planet that you have either in Scorpio or in your 8th house. And when the sun illuminates that, what is the sun? It is our awareness. And we just become aware of what's happening there. If you do not become aware on your own, there will be circumstances in your life that are going to rub it in your nose. That's how the sign of Scorpio works. Now, Saturn has been transiting Scorpio since November 2014. So this should not come as any kind of surprise. So that's the first reason I don't understand all the fear mongering that is happening related to December. Nothing to be afraid about. Trust me, this is something that you have been dealing with for the past 2 years. Wherever Scorpio falls in your chart, and I just took the chart of Aries as an example because it's the most natural order of zodiac. It starts from the sign 1, right, Aries. Except if you're Taurus, then this will be in your 7th house. If you're a Gemini, this is going to be in your 6th house, and so on. You know the basics. This is not anything new. Saturn has been transiting this part of your chart for the past 2 years. There has been a lot of ups and downs and dealing with your subconscious in this area. If you have not been dealing with that consciously, then things there tend to develop suddenly. Why do we say that the sign of Scorpio in the 8th house are dealing with sudden ups and downs? Because this is the area of our chart where we do things compulsively, not very consciously, not at all consciously. It's all about the subconscious mind, like the deeper and not so nice parts of our limbic brain, where we have very strong emotional reactions and resist the change. Scorpio is the sign of change, but Scorpio is also the sign that resists the change the most. This is why changes in Scorpio are so difficult. For example, another sign that deals with changes is Gemini. But changes in Gemini are kind of easy changes, and they can happen on the level of form. Changes which fall into the sign of Scorpio are not just mere changes, they are transformations. Do you know what a transformation is? This is literally, if you take a caterpillar, and then later on look at the butterfly, this is not the same thing anymore. And the process that the caterpillar had to go through to become a butterfly is, you can Google that. It's not an easy process. It helps to practically self-destruct before it can emerge like the phoenix from the ashes, That's your sign of Scorpio. That's what we have been dealing with in the past 2 years, all of us, in one area of our life. Now, on the 29th of November, there was a new moon in Scorpio, which triggered the last cycle of transformation that started in November 2014. Why do I say this? Because we will not have another new moon conjunct Saturn in the sign of Scorpio for the next 28 or 29 years. So whatever has been happening there, this is like the culmination. This new moon is triggering what's happening here. So on the psychological level, this can be one of those final eye-openers related to the house where it happens. At the same time, this is the 3rd month from the solar eclipse that we had in Leo. And the 3rd month from the solar eclipse tends to trigger this eclipse because you can see that this new moon is at 13 degrees of Scorpio while the nodes are in 13 degrees of Leo and Aquarius respectively. So in Western astrology, this aspect is known as the square. We are having a double square here. We don't even have to look at it as a square. You can just look at it as any growing new moon. When we have a growing new moon on a monthly level, those first few days around the new moon are very foggy. You feel the energy pulling away. And then several days after that, as we are approaching the 7th day, when we are going to have the square between the moon and the sun, things are gaining speed. Now, on a higher scale, the same thing is happening with the solar eclipses. When the new moon happens in the sign that squares the sign where the solar eclipse was, it kind of triggers the events there. Now, apart from being in Scorpio, this new moon is in the nakshatra of Anuradha, and Anuradha is ruled by Saturn. So we have 2 key players here. Saturn, which rules the nakshatra of Anuradha, and Mars, which rules the sign of Scorpio. Now, Anuradha mostly has to do with friendships, contracts, and agreements. The deity that rules Anuradha is God Mitra, who is in charge of contracts, agreements, and friendships. And Saturn, who rules this new moon, is the nakshatra of Jeshta, also in the sign of Scorpio. This is a 10 degrees conjunction, which is a pretty strong conjunction. which means that this transformation is going to be permanent, which can also mean that since this is Saturn, and Saturn resists change, and Scorpio resists change, and Scorpio is a Tamasic sign, and Saturn is a Tamasic planet, there can be certain resistance to change at the beginning. This is why it can be painful. There is no other reason for this to be painful, because you already know what you're dealing with, except if you're resisting it. Now, I'm not saying go and jump into a change with this new moon, because this is not a jumpy moon. This is a very Tamasic resistant move. Just thread carefully. Go careful, go Saturnian way. Don't resist, but go Saturnian way, okay? This is a very serious moon. Saturn from Jeshta gives it a very serious tone, and it will be a serious month, and it can be painful emotionally, especially if it falls in an emotional house. This is for you fire signs, this is going to trigger your emotional houses. I think in any other house, this will be a bit easier to deal with, because it will be happening in a bit more tangible level. In an emotional house, you have to go through it emotionally, right? One of the significances of nakshatra of Anuradha is that they compared its energies to a small flash of lightning that transforms you. And with Saturn conjuncting it, this is going to be a permanent transformation. So when I say take the Saturnian approach there, it means be patient, take things slowly, tread carefully, be practical. Bear in mind that repetition helps you grow. If there are things to be repeated there, repeat them. Saturn repeats stuff. Maybe there are some lessons that we haven't learned thoroughly, and Saturn is going to trigger the repetitive quality of this. Anuradha is a great nakshatra for exploration, for problem solving. This is going to help us solve all those deep Scorpio issues that are going to arise here. One of the great things about Anuradha is that it has the ability to form friendships and relationships in difficult situations, meaning that if there is any kind of difficulty, there could be friends to help you. There can be a person who maybe wasn't even a friend before that can help you now, or your friends, your partners, your family, whoever. Somebody will be there if a difficult situation arises to help you. This is the energy that will be on your disposal, so use it. Help will be provided. But this may not be the kind of help that would a cancer energy give you, where they just tuck you in and they are there to be for you like a mother, or the kind of energy that Pisces would give you, where it's all about compassion and understanding and high levels of acceptance. No, Scorpio will tend to just flash the harsh truth in your face, something that you probably were not aware of. And with Saturn, it can hurt, so you can resist it. Don't resist it. Just take it slowly, but don't resist it. Take your own pace, just don't resist it. Resistance is what brings trouble to all of us, right? Resistance to change. The only truth about the universe and our lives is that they're changeable. Everything changes all the time. So change is the only truth. We cannot resist it. If you resist it, you're blocking your growth. So don't resist wherever this falls. with Anuradha, you can really have some great counselors there, either in the form I said of your friends or your partners, or literally a counselor. This is also a nakshatra which is extremely emotional and gets attached very easily. Now, with Saturn and all this emotional energy, and one more thing about Anuradha is that it can have problems with boundaries, no clear boundaries. This is the nakshatra of the ultimate devotion. So there can be the problem of lack of boundaries here. Generally, I think with Saturn, there can be a problem with there can be a problem with too much boundaries, where boundaries are too strict. And strict boundaries are exactly what creates that resistance, okay? On another level, if there is no resistance, with Anuradha, a very emotional nakshatra which gets attached very easily, the nakshatra of the ultimate devotion, and Saturn there could be some permanent relationships, agreements, resolutions with ultimate devotions, the signing of contracts, all depending on which house in your chart this affects. Now, we've spoken about the processes which happen in the sign of Scorpio, right? The great thing about this new moon is that Saturn, who rules the nakshatra of Anuradha, and this new moon in Anuradha is together with it, but conjuncting it from the nakshatra Jyeshta. Jyeshta is the last tamasic nakshatra. Tamasic nakshatras and tamasic energies are all about preserving, protecting, and after that, we are heading to the sign of Sagittarius and the following 9 nakshatras who have the sattvic quality. So this is the last one. This is why we can feel, the sense of urgency here and high anxiety. Very high anxiety is possible in Jyeshta. But why? Is it because Jyeshta is a bad nakshatra? Is it because it is cursed? No. Every nakshatra has its dark side. Absolutely every nakshatra. The thing with Jyeshta, and then with the first nakshatra of Sagittarius, where Saturn is moving in January, and which is called Mula, is that the level of awareness is so high here that you have the awareness of all the subconscious things, all the karmic and genetic leftovers that you have. And when you have awareness of something, you usually deal with it. And when you deal with it, these are not comfortable processes. But Jyeshta has the power to conquer the subconscious and raise above it. Now let me repeat this. This is the last new moon conjunct Saturn in the cycle of Saturn transiting Scorpio, which is not going to repeat for the next 28 or 29 years. And it is supported by the nakshatra, which has the power to conquer the subconscious and raise above it. Do you think that this can be a comfortable, fluffy process where you jump over the pink clouds and just do it? No. Subconscious usually communicates with us through emotions, through pictures, through our reflection in the outside events. This is why it can be uncomfortable. On the other side, if you do not accept this change, the other side of Jeshta is that they can be control freaks. Remember, we spoke about resisting the change. And they can also be prone to sexual promiscuity and affairs. And with Saturn there and the new moon, I think, yeah, something like this would be possible, especially depending on the house in your chart where it falls. If it falls in some kind of a secret house or a house that has to deal with love affairs, this is also possible. But whatever you do, know that there is the potential to conquer the subconscious and raise above it. This is something that we will be dealing with throughout December. So this video is not late, it just started happening. The great thing about this is that this new moon is ruled by Mars, who is exalted in Capricorn, plus supported by a trine from Jupiter from Virgo. This is a very strong Mars. Whatever you need to achieve with this new moon, you can do it. You have all the support. It's not gonna be easy, pinky, fluffy, but you can do it. Now let me show you something. This is the comparison between the new moon in Scorpio that we had last year in December and this one. Okay, this one is on the 29th of November, but its effects are going to last for at least this December, although I think they will be much more permanent because of what I've already explained with the new moon conjuncting Saturn, who has been through Scorpio for the past 2 years. Look at this. Last December, we had a new moon in Jeshta conjunct Saturn, but from the other side in Anuradha. Now, this Saturn was not so experienced as the one that we have now. Can you see that they have almost switched the places by the degree? So a similar themes are happening. Last year, Mars, who ruled this new moon, was in Virgo at the exact same degree where Jupiter now is. Mars in Virgo is much, much weaker than Mars in Capricorn. Mars in Virgo is frustrated. So this was the new moon that could bring a lot of sudden frustration because Saturn was not experienced. Now Saturn is very experienced. We have learned so much about the Scorpio part of our chart. And this Mars is opposing, the last Mars was opposing Uranus in Virgo. This is like the ultimate frustration. And this time we have Mars supported by Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter is opposed by Uranus now, so there can be some sudden developments, or it can be that your friends are somehow involved in whatever happens, both because of Uranus and Anuradha, the nakshatra, which practically rules the most permanent high-quality friendships in our lives. People who have placements here know that very well. But if you wanted to do something last year and did not manage, this is the year that you can do it. If something started developing last year in the Scorpio area of your chart, which was sudden and frustrating, now you're gonna be much more patient with it. You will have the experience to deal with it. It will be something that you have been working on for the past 2 years. It can still be difficult, but this is now the energy that you have been incorporating in yourself for 2 years. And this is not gonna come as a surprise. It's not gonna come as anything new. Okay? It's just gonna come as a final cycle of Saturn transit Scorpio. Okay? I'm very serious new moon. The full moon that we are having this month is falling on the 14th of December in the nakshatra Mrigashira. Mrigashira is the nakshatra which spans in the last degrees of Taurus and the first several degrees of Gemini, but this full moon is falling on the 28th degrees of Taurus. Moon is great in Taurus, stable mind, right? Plus, this full moon is opposite to Saturn in Jeshta. So we have two Saturnian moons this December. All the planets are still direct. Okay, Mercury is going to interrupt this very soon. All the planets are still from one side of Rahu Ketu axis, pointing to an imbalance and pointing to a time where we need to move forward. Okay, no retrogrades, no looking back. We are starting new things in this period, and we are having two Saturnian moons, the new moon and the full moon, which are markers of something permanent. Now, Mrigashira Nakshatra is a very sensitive, soft, tender nakshatra. It can also be a bit fickle and nervous, although with Saturn opposing it and the trine from Jupiter, I think this is going to be stabilized a lot. Mrigashira brings great intuition, but because of this intuition and reading too much information, unconscious information with their sixth sense, they can be too much suspicious, constantly searching for something. This is the star of searching, but why are they searching? They're always, always, always looking to find something better, something more, to evolve. Okay, there is always some kind of level of dissatisfaction in Mrigashira, which leads to a change. So we have a change again, and some level of dissatisfaction which pushes us to seek fulfillment, which pushes us to look for a better way to deal with things. Why is this? Because this nakshatra, although it is falling in the sign of Taurus, is again ruled by Mars. And Mars at this time is in Aquarius, where he's not very happy, and with Ketu. Now, this is a tricky situation. See, this full moon can be a very stable full moon. Opposition from Saturn gives it stability. Trine from Jupiter gives us optimism, opportunities for growth, opportunities for easy, nice change. But then this new moon, this nakshatra, is ruled by Mars, and Mars is together with Ketu in Aquarius. Why is Mars problematic in Aquarius? Because wherever Mars is, this is where we want to push our own will, to conquer things our own way, to do things individually. Mars is a very individualistic energy. And the sign of Aquarius is the sign of cooperation. Wherever Aquarius falls in your chart, this is where you need to cooperate, usually with a large group of people, in order to come to solutions, conclusions, and resolutions which are beneficial for large groups of people, for societies, for let's say modern kind of tribes. That's Aquarius. So imagine the area of your life where you used to do things on your own. You just push, do what you want to do, and the things are done. And now you are forced to cooperate, and you're not used to cooperate there. Plus, this Mars, together with K2, is gonna give a huge striving for achievements. It can also give a lot of anger and the desire for ultimate conquering, because the energy of K2 is like, let's say, the energies of Mars times 4. If where Mars is placed in our charts, this is where we want to conquer things. K2 is what we have already conquered, and if we need to go defend it again, we have done it before, and we know we can do that. There is one great, I think it's Chinese saying, in order to win any war, you must fight as if you were already dead. That to me is Mars conjunct K2, even K2 without Mars. This is something that you have done successfully so many times that you know you can do it anytime. Anytime. Mars is going to give it extra motivation. Now, the good thing here is that Mars is in Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So they're not going to destroy each other's houses. Although I don't think this is going to be an easy full moon. I don't think it's going to be easy. It will be very serious. Moon is opposing Saturn, and when Moon opposes Saturn, we do not show our moon side, our fragile side. We have to appear strong, capable, independent. Very often we need to show that we are self-sufficient in an area of life where we are not ready for that. This is having to demonstrate that you are self-sufficient, but prematurely. If it falls in some area of your chart where there is any kind of nurturing is mostly done through emotional houses, then it's going to be a very practical kind of nurturing, not emotional. Saturn is a cold planet. And with this new moon, what is important? How to deal with these energies? Structure, organization, self-discipline. And you're going to have support of Jupiter from whichever house in your chart Virgo is. That's where you're going to have support from. So, for example, okay, this is the most natural chart of Aries. Aries will have the support of their subordinates here. For example, Taurus will have the support of their children or their sports team. For example, I don't know, Scorpio is going to have support from their friends and their social networks and so on. But bear in mind that the energy of Mars plus K2 can still break things, and full moons represent culminations. Now, if there have been some uncomfortable developments, then Moon opposite Saturn can break things, can break relationships, can break whatever, wherever it falls. I mean, if it falls in the third house, you can break your phone. You know, it can be something very practical. It can also, let's say, show up at an emotional level. So Mars plus K2 can be so aggressive, such an achiever, such an angry, conquering energy. In Aquarius, forced to cooperate, this is going to be this is going to be difficult. You're not going to want to do that. Or people represented by the house where this happens are not going to want to do that. Still, I see very successful resolutions here with this full moon, but not an easy new moon. And this new moon is happening on the 14th of December. Right after that, on the 16th of December, Sun moves to Sagittarius, and Sun will be much more comfortable in Sagittarius. Sun is the fiery planet, Sagittarius is a fiery sign. We're going to start feeling much more optimistic, much more light, much more dealing with our philosophies and higher belief systems. And, these things are usually nice not nice, pleasant things. Scorpio is usually dealing with unpleasant emotional stuff. So right after this full moon, there's going to be a bit of relief. But then on the 19th of December, Mercury goes retrograde in Sagittarius, and it's going to be retrograde until the 8th of January 2017. And Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius will give us a very, very broad perspective from our right brain. That's the intuitive, creative brain. On the areas that we have previously been looking with our logical mind. I hope I will have the time to do a separate video on this Mercury retrograde. One more thing that I would like to talk about is just a bit more about this general fear. As you probably know, Saturn is approaching something called the Gandanta zone. Gandanta zone is the zone which happens at the transition from water signs to fiery signs. And from Jyeshta to Mula nakshatra. Jyeshta is the last nakshatra in Scorpio. Mula is the first nakshatra in Sagittarius. And this is where the Gandanta zone is happening. From 29 degrees of Scorpio until the first degree of Sagittarius, Saturn is approaching this. You can already feel it. Jyeshta nakshatra is the zone of high anxiety. I already explained why. Now, both Jyeshta and Mula are sharp nakshatras. The difference is Scorpio is an emotional sign and a tamasic sign. And Jyeshta is the last nakshatra in the tamasic zone of the zodiac. From that, we are moving to Mula, which is the first nakshatra of the sattvic zone of the zodiac, and it's happening in the fire. Now, why is Gandanta zone so feared of? It's because they say that in the Gandanta zone there is a spiritual knot that you need to untie and bring whatever it signifies to an end. Now, this can sound a bit too philosophical or metaphysical, right? Let me give you a very practical example of this. Let's say that you have your Venus at 29.30 degrees of Scorpio or at 0.10 degrees Sagittarius. This is not a weak planet. This is probably the most powerful planet that you have in your chart. Let's say that we don't know which houses Venus rules for you, but we know that Venus is the natural significator or karaka of your relationship, money, and women in your life. For example, this means that there is something that you need to change in your life regarding your relationships. When we say a spiritual knot, this is usually something that is transferred to you through your DNA in the form of my family always did it this way. So let's say that your father, your grandfather, whoever you can think of, no matter how many generations back, had a similar pattern of dealing with women. Now, this is not giving results anymore, or similar pattern of dealing with money, similar pattern of entering relationships. Let's say, for example, they were able to cheat on their spouses, and the first generation didn't have problems because of that. The second generation had some problems. The third generation had more problems. And now you are, let's say, the seventh generation, and your father had huge problems because of this. And for your life, it's not gonna work. So maybe early on you start by also, getting caught up in some illicit affairs or stuff like that, suddenly everything in your life gets tumbled upside down and it doesn't work. And then you start untying that knot and trying to do things differently. You think, okay, I'm aware of this now. I'm going to do it differently and it's going to work from the first time. No, it's not going to work from the first time, most probably. You are going to be running into married women, women who will, let's say, or either you marry. Suddenly there are hundreds of women offering you to be with them. You know, stuff like that. It's not easy, but somewhere deep inside you, you know that this is what you have to change. Or for example, if your Jupiter is in the Gandanta point, maybe you have to change your belief system, your religion, something related to your children or the kind of husband that you're going to choose. If Saturn is there, maybe there is some deep sorrow that has been passed on through generations that you have to work through. Maybe there is something related to poverty. Or let's say that, for example, your family runs a business and they have always had problems with the subordinates. And then Saturn in your chart is on the Gandanta point. You are the one who's going to have to deal with it. It becomes like a life mission, and it requires a lot of energy. You need to invest a lot of energy there to change this. This part of the zodiac from Jeshta to Mula is considered to be the most turbulent part of the universe, and they say that there are a lot of our unused karmas which lie here in this zone. This is exactly what I've been trying to explain with these natural karakas. Now, besides from this, you have to see what these planets, which houses they rule in your chart. So let's say, for example, it's Saturn and you're dealing with your subordinates. Maybe at the same time, Saturn is in your chart, rules the fifth house. So you will have to go through some similar kind of transformation where you change from the root and start a new cycle of how you deal with your children or what you do in the politics if you are involved. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. So this is the reason why there is a lot of anxiety in this part of the zodiac. And this is the reason why everybody is predicting doom and gloom for December. So just be aware that the only reason why anxiety here is high is because the awareness levels are high. We are aware of what we are doing. We become aware. When Saturn triggers this, we will become aware of what we are doing unconsciously to ourselves or to others, or both to ourselves and others. And now when you become aware of this, you want to finish it because you see how it destroys you. But how do you finish it? Do you have the mechanisms to deal with it, or are you going to stumble up in the dark until you find the new mechanisms? You know, with Scorpio, it will probably be the second option, and that is why they call this zone turbulent. It has a lot of highs and lows, and you have to invest a lot of your energy into it because you become aware of something, that a pattern, like a family pattern or a generational pattern or your pattern, that you have to finish. You have to be done with it. Otherwise, you cannot progress in life. You literally become stuck and you don't have the replacement mechanisms to deal with it. So you kill the old mechanisms, but what do we do now? Now we are in the unknown, dealing with our subconscious mind in the waters of Scorpio. Well, hello, anxiety. I mean, it's only logical, right? The transition that we are going to go through here is from Scorpio, which is a watery sign which rules our deep subconscious emotions and deep transformation, not change, transformation. But at the same time, Scorpio is the tamasic sign which tries to preserve and protect whatever it has. So it resists change. That's why it is painful. To Sagittarius, which is the highest sign of fire, action, and the sign of our highest dharma, and the sattvic sign. So the transition that we are going to have here and all through 2017 is first having to deal with an emotional transformation, which happens in Scorpio, and then trying to act differently. In this trying to act differently, you will have to start from the roots. Mula is the roots. And it is going to confirm that every change comes from within first, right? First we deal with our emotions in Scorpio, and then we go to Sagittarius, which is the sign of action and our dharma. And now we can make some real change, but still we have to start from the roots in Mula. Saturn is going to step on the 29 degrees of Scorpio from around the 15th of January, and it's going to be there until the 27th of January. So the second half of January is the Gandanta point in Scorpio, and then from the 27th of January to the 10th of February is the 0 degrees of Sagittarius. Okay, this is when you're gonna feel this transition. Now, this is not the end, because during 2017, Saturn is going to retrograde back to the sign of Scorpio and tie any loose ends that we might have left there. And at that point, we are going to have a full moon, which is going to happen in Scorpio on the 9th of June 2017. And as now we are having the full moon in Mrigashira, the moon is in Mrigashira, the sun is in Jeshta, we are going to have the reverse situation where the sun is going to be in Mrigashira, again supported by Jupiter. The moon is going to be in Jeshta, and Saturn is going to be at the Gandanta point, 0 degrees of Sagittarius Mula. So it's going to trigger some similar events. Whatever happens now, if you have the feeling that this is not completely finished, let's say when we get to the middle of January or even beginning of January, if you think this is not completely finished, then any loose ends will be tied up during June 2017, and then it's like bye-bye strong Scorpio energies for the next 28 to 29 years. Okay, so guys, thank you for listening. I hope this was useful for you, and I hope that now all the doom and gloom is demystified. Nothing to be scared of. You have all the support to go through a difficult period, emotionally difficult period, but you will go through it. You will be stronger at the end of it. Okay? Don't worry. Enjoy December, be brave in December, and take it slowly. Take it easy on yourself and slowly. Saturnian approach is going to work here. Okay? Lots of love to you. Thank you for listening, and I hope to hear not to hear from you. I hope you will hear from me in the next let's say 2 weeks with the video on Mercury retrograde, which is also taking place in December. And this one I think is very important because it is triggering the degrees where Saturn will be transiting starting from January 2017. Lots of love, and enjoy your December. Bye bye.